Hey everyone, this is Thyworm, and today I want to talk about my first impressions of 0.7.4 as well as provide some patch notes highlights. I started a new character yesterday and played all through the campaign again. Victor, my Void Knight, is currently farming it out in the Monolith and the arena. I'm experimenting a lot with this guy, trying to make my Void Knight work the way I want to, and as soon as I succeed you can expect a build guide. That's a nice way of saying this character currently kinda sucks. Overall though, I had a good time playing 0.7.4 for about 10 hours. I noticed the changes, I'm happy with most of them, so let's dive into the article, but not before noticing that Phase 2 has now officially begun. I think, because time rifts are a phase 2 thing, so that's good news. It means we can look forward to some of the stuff listed here, like Chapter 7 content, the Eternity Cache and animation updates. Starting off with time rifts. The world of Last Epoch is all about time travel, visiting different eras and using the shard to do so. Time rifts play into this, basically opening portals to other eras in the same physical location. Let's say you are in the Imperial era, you find a time rift, and then when you pass through it you end up in the same location in the Ancient Era. The Ancient Era was the time before the Void had taken over anything, so here you won't find Void monsters, but instead a much more lush green environment. It's dangerous nonetheless, with flesh-eating plants, dinosaurs and even a dragon. Time rifts are a great concept and fairly well executed. It's definitely a big change of scenery, both in flora and fauna. You can find 6 time rifts through the campaign and they're pretty hard to miss. Sometimes they're even mandatory to progress the plot, for example the first one, which results in a small quest with a confused chronomancer. The whole thing serves as a nice, quick introduction. Time rifts always end in a boss fight. There are some new boss mechanics here, which is pretty cool. Primarily the AoE ability seems a common trend amongst all bosses, but the way you respond to them isn't always the same, or it shouldn't be. I liked the variety and the increasing complexity in boss fights that Last Epoch brings. They pose a fair challenge when played on par in the campaign. After defeating the boss, you'll find another portal, porting you back to your current era. I would love to see time rifts also make the way into the endgame content. Imagine maps in the Monolith also have the occasional time rift that spawns, a little bit like Xena's maps in Path of Exile. It would be a cool addition and add another layer of complexity without spending much time on implementing it. 11th hour will have to overhaul the map, sure, but that is really about it. I'm looking forward to that. Up next, Masteries. Great idea, great execution, it just works. Previously, getting your mastery was rather passive by spending a passive point into a passive tree. This has been overhauled completely. When you first enter the end of time, you get a quest to speak to the Forgotten Knight, who sends you off to the realm of the Forgotten, which ends into this shrine holding your fate. It's impressive, albeit small. In the end, you'll be offered this comprehensive menu with choices, and it's up to you to decide your own destiny. Like I said in my case, Void Knight, which gives me 50% more melee void damage and a 10% chance to summon an echo of an attack or a spell. Cool in theory, unpractical in reality, but just wait for my Void Knight guide to get to the bottom of this. Then some rework in the campaign Act 2, which is definitely noticeable. Not only are the individual zones more streamlined and better connected, the whole experience is also a bit smoother. Chapter 2 was always quite a bit of walking back and forth because each zone had only one connection point to the others. It was like a side alley basically in a long street. That has changed, which is highlighted when looking at the map. Apart from this, the Sapphire Quarter got updated, and I noticed something else that I'm pretty sure is new, which is a giant soul cage over here. I can't remember seeing this before, or at least not with the souls in it. There's a side quest here leading you into the cave, but was this always an active soul cage? I feel this change was introduced with the change to soul cages overall. Whatever it may be, it looks really neat. Last Epoch also overhauled 2316 skills and passives. I'll link to the patch notes below so you can read that. It's really not that useful to go through all of that, although I actually did read all the changes from both 0.7.4 and 0.7.4b, but to me not much stood out that I wanted to cover in depth. Once I'm creating more build guides, this gets more interesting, but for now it's probably good to know that Maelstrom, Disintegrate and Static are the new skills. Enchant Weapon, Judgment, Manifest Armor got a specialization tree, Freeze got a big buff across all skills, and Holy Aura was overhauled significantly. Then another new feature, node tooltips. These have a new design and it looks neat and clean. The new design allows you to instantly see what each node does without having to read the entire description. You hover over a node and there it is. I really like the colors and icons as well. There are blue colors for positive effects and red colors for negative effects. The icons make sense as well for each tooltip. Currently this system is implemented only for the Acolyte and Mage, so other classes will have to wait a bit, like the Void Knight. And this node overhaul got me thinking about the way the inventory is displayed, which is honestly still kind of a mess. After 100 hours of playing, I still have to hover through each and every yellow item to see the affixes. I would love a similar system with colors to indicate, for example, damage types, or with icons to indicate melee versus spell damage. It would make everything so much easier, and it would also save me many hours, because going through loot is a significant part of the endgame. After 2 Monolith runs, my inventory is stacked with yellow items and it takes me a minute or two to get through it, while all I want is to get back into the action without losing valuable items. On top of this, a loot filter would of course be extremely useful, but that is only planned for phase 4. On to mechanics. The big one is the potion update, which went live. I already spent an entire video on that, so watch that for details. I can at least confirm that the potion affixes are indeed rare drops, with me only finding a few in endgame. Something else I noticed while playing the Void Knight is the stun change. Stun is buffed significantly, with 50% increased chance to stun and 100% increased chance to stun for melee abilities. And I'm running Victor the Void Knight with a big ass hammer and it's like stun galore out there. I'm stunning enemies non-stop, kind of fun actually, and possibly a good defense mechanic against at least heaps of trash mobs. Erasing strike stun works pretty well so far. There are a few new items as well, for example 3 uniques. I already found one of them, Orcarian's Paddles, on one of the bosses in a time rift. There's a new helmet, Bone Clamor Barbute, and a one-handed axe, Undisputed. I loved this cute reference to Zizran's attempt at setting a world record in streaming, the most hours streamed in 30 days. Somewhere along the way, Ziz was told another guy might reach the same number of hours at the same time, making his attempt invalid. So he casually added 4 more hours to the challenge. This was then coined by his community, Undisputed. He went on to set that record of 506.5 hours of streaming in 30 days. The record didn't hold that long, however. It has since been topped by streamer Edison Park, streaming 541 hours in 30 days, which is an average of 18 hours per day for 30 days. Alright, back to last Epoch, to the UI. The class badge in the passives panel is increased and reworked. That has everything to do with the Mastery overhaul, and it looks really stylish, if I say so myself. The minion icons in the top left of the screen got an overhaul as well, looking much cleaner now. Base spell damage turned up in the character panel, and that's all I found interesting here. Last Epoch added the ladder, now also online. You can find yourself there and see how big how well you did on the arena or Monolith. I don't really care for participating in competition in gaming, honestly, although I love watching esports. I like experimenting with builds a lot, and Last Epoch has plenty of that. There are visual and sound updates too, some enemy overhauls like the Soul Cage, and of course 263 bug fixes. Once again, I'll link the article in the description down below. My last point, which is important, is performance. The patch notes state that they saw a 7 frames per second improvement in some areas on a Ryzen 5 and RX 480. I'm running an i7 8700 and RTX 2080, and I saw a big decline in performance in 0.7.4. The next hotfix, 0.7.4b, made the game playable again, but as my fellow YouTuber Vulcan already described, it is an FPS roller coaster. I'm running a pretty beefy machine here, and I paid a lot of money for that thing, so when optimization isn't great, that is sort of disturbing. Now, I'm pretty sure by now I don't have to tell you I'm really loving Last Epoch. I made several videos and guides about it, and it's one of my favorite action RPGs, but I also want the game to do well. And I know that performance issues can seriously harm a game, especially now that we're getting closer to release. Yes, I know we're in early access, but I've been playing this game since April this year, and while performance has improved, it is still far from even decent. I'm not getting 60 frames per second like ever, regardless of the graphical settings. On top of that, it really eats my CPU and GPU, consuming up to 80% of resources. There are a few things you can do, like enabling VSync somehow. That cut down 20% for me in resources, but the game is still choppy in certain areas and just never really smooth. Smooth like Pagan Online was, or Wolzen. Those games run smooth, man. They got plenty of other issues, don't get me wrong, but they run smooth, just like Path of Exile usually. I hope they can get most of these issues ironed out. I am reporting them on the forums as well and posting logs, and I recommend you do the same if you have these issues, so we can help the devs solve this. Because once this game runs as smooth as the ones I just described, there is really no stopping it from becoming a big success. And that's all I have for now. You can follow me on Twitter, where I'm reading more than I'm posting. You can like the video, which I like. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. I will see you soon. Bye bye.